Hey, hey, hey. It's,
Hello, everybody.
we're live for episode 2 of Waterfed Wednesday, where we're going to talk about the Tucker Glide brush and brushes in general.
Yeah, this has evolved into every brush today.
Yeah, you can't see it from on the camera, but we have every brush available on the table here. All right, I went a little early on going live, so I'm just going to let some people join in, make sure everyone's all on. We're on live on Instagram, our YouTube channel, Facebook business page, and Facebook group page. Uh, please chime in, make sure you can hear us, see if everything's good. Let us know where you're at, what you're up to. Drink some tea with us.
Yeah, little tea, little coffee, little water. Got my new Team Tucker hydro flask from, well, is that a brand name? From
That's
Arctic?
yeah. That I think you got mixed up brands, but that's Arctic.
It's a Tucker cup.
All right, that's what it is. All right, guys. So, like I said, our topic today is all about water-fed brushes, including our latest brush line, the Tucker Glide. Uh, sure, you've been seeing it going out on our website and starting to get some steam on social media about the brush. But yeah, let's get this kicked off. I'm your host. Well, both of us are the hosts here. I'm Alex Brunner, and this is Sean Gavin.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, let's
Uh,
talk brushes, huh?
all right. So,
Where do you
what
want
do
to start?
that's what I wanted to know.
Well,
Let's leave the glide
yeah.
for last.
All right, cool. We can do that.
All
So,
right.
let's start where it all started for Tucker, right? Like,
Sure.
you know, when I bought Tucker, I was introduced to a guy named Harold that went to work for Tucker when he was 18 in the 50s, and he still worked there in the 2000s when I bought the company. Well, full disclosure, the company had closed down, and Harold had essentially lost his job. It was the only job he ever had. He made Tucker brushes his whole life. And so we fired the place back up when I bought the company, and basically I got Harold and another guy to come back to work. Harold and Ron, both of retirement age at the time, so it took some convincing. But Harold taught me everything about making Tucker brushes. And obviously, if you can imagine a guy who went to work for a company when he's 18, did one thing his entire life, he was passionate about it. And he had a lot of opinions about where the company should go with brushes and all that kind of stuff. And I took some of that to heart in terms of where I've gone with it since. But, a lot of people know Tucker for the DuPont bristle brush, right? The clear bristle tends to kind of color change more to a white or opaque later on in its life. And that's what they were making primarily when I bought the company. It was either full trim or dual trim Tucker brushes. And Harold educated me on the fact that when they started, they were making boar bristle brushes, which was exciting to me because that's what I wanted to make, and they didn't have one at the time. So I soon got into boar bristle after, but nylon and specifically DuPont bristle nylon. So nylon bristle from one manufacturer to the next can be different, right? You want to look for DuPont nylon bristle, and you're paying a premium for it, but you're getting a better product. And one of the things we've done over the last year or so is take our standard nylon and change up the inner trim, right? So in the brush world, I mentioned full trim, dual trim. That's the trim level, right? So if the bristle's all the same length, that's a full trim bristle brush.
Yeah, it's just to show you. There's our bore, full trim.
Full trim, all the same length, right? When it's a dual trim, it means the inside is a little shorter than the outside, like the hybrid brushes tend to be, right?
Right.
So, and the concept there is, the outer bristles will splay out. You'll get a nice splay on the glass. Where's that angle? Right there. You get a nice splay on the glass, and then the inner bristle will do some more scrubbing, right? So we went to a different bristle last year on the inside trim of our nylon brush. It's a little stiffer, and it's black in color, so you can it's just a color differentiator. So that's the nylon, right? You've got nylon bristle brushes, and that's really kind of the main core business for Tucker in terms of the standard brush that goes out with all the poles.
Cool. Cool. Checking in here. Let's clear this up.
I see Damien. Hey, Damien.
Yeah, what's up? Glad to have you on board. Over at Instagram, we have Joseph Dietzman checking in from California. I'll be heading out that way next month for vacation, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, get some warm weather, huh?
Yeah, not this. Well, I'm hoping it's not some crazy California weather, but I think
Not all
should
rain.
be good.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, from there, I mean, basically, if we get into full discussion on nylon bristles, right? Again, DuPont is going to make the best bristle on the market, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried some other ones. This Solar brush here is a nylon bristle. It's a lot longer bristle. You can see the length of this bristle is a lot longer. This is not a DuPont nylon. This is a different kind of material. And the ends of these bristles are what they call flagged or flocked. You'll see them say that. And so basically what they do is they take the end of the bristle and they essentially split it. So it's shredded at the end. I've never really been a big fan of that for windows because that edge or that part of the material can hold dirt. And so when you're trying to rinse with the brush on the glass, if your bristle has a bunch of dirt in it, then essentially you've got an issue where you have to pull the brush off the glass to rinse, or use your rinse bar, which guys either love or hate the rinse bar concept, right?
Yeah.
So, but on solar, you've got essentially the angle of the solar panel, and everything is rushing off, and it's not sight glass. So even if you leave a little bit of debris behind in terms of spotting and stuff, you really never see that because it's a solar panel. But so this is a nylon bristle. It's longer in length, and it has a flocked or a flagged end on it, and that's a nylon brush we make as well.
Cool. When going back to the brush that you're just talking about, the nylon with the black inset, can you tell us more about this right here? You think it's any more aggressive there, or is it
this black inner? I mean, so basically what you'll have is any of these bristles you can order in a thickness change. So it's quite a bit thicker on the inside. So when we thicken that up, what we experience is that the tips of those bristles get a little better scrub. Bird droppings, stuff like that will break down a little easier with this black bristle rather than the real fine DuPont nylon that's made to get into all those nooks and crannies on French panes and all up in the corners of different types of windows.
So yeah, and that brush in particular comes with our complete poles. So now you have something out of the box, a little more aggressive. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as, say, our hybrid, but when you're looking at just getting into water fed, obviously, I particularly like having all the type of the brushes because you're going to have different scenarios. So any craftsman will, if they want to have complete tools. If you're a guy that's building houses, you're going to have a nailer, for framing, one for trim. So you're always going to have the right tool for the job. Same thing with the brushes, but out of the box, you're going to have something that's going to be usable more than just maintenance clean glass.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest reason we put this brush with the poles is because this brush is the most user-friendly in terms of trying to learn and clean windows, right?
Right.
It's not going to hold dirt. You can rinse with this on the glass without a rinse bar, without massive flow coming through.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the all-around kind of brush you would want to learn on. When you get into a hybrid, right? You have a hybrid here somewhere. When you get into a hybrid brush, one over there. When you get into the hybrid brush, now you've got the boar bristle on the inside trim rather than the black nylon. And we all know, the benefits of boar bristle, right? That natural fiber scrubs a whole lot better.
Right.
But what it does also is it holds dirt. So, we're hesitant to give this to, a first timer or a newbie because it's going to hold a little dirt in there. So that the all nylon bristle non-flagged brushes are going to give that real kind of optimal rinse off the glass and not hold any dirt on the guys.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, let's check back in here. Let's see. Joseph back over on Instagram.
Where are you going in California?
Okay. I think we're going to fly into San Diego, and then we're just going to head over to Oceanside place right off the ocean.
If
off
I
the
remember
beach.
right, that's right where Joey's at.
Okay.
Yeah, he might have some good, hopefully some taco places.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send those recommendations. I'd love to go get some good food. Back over to Facebook, affordable pressure washing checking in. He's saying here, I forgot I can do this. So,
There you
what's
go.
up? What's up, guys? I'm going to order some new brushes soon. Yeah, absolutely. I remember. I think you were checking in yesterday, day before, looking for something for those dealerships. Maybe get a bigger brush. So we got some great options to check out. I know you're interested in the board, but we also mentioned. I think I mentioned to you the Glide that just came out, and you wanted something in the Alpha series. So we got that one over there.
Yeah, Alpha Glide.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can show it off. We can talk about it here in a little bit.
Yeah. So the Glide, I don't see a full bore here. Did we
Oh,
grab one? Oh, you've
yep.
got one. Yeah. So Alpha Glide. We got a lot of feedback about the boar bristle brushes, right? I mean, let's talk pros and cons of boar bristle. So you basically have a natural fiber. You know, when you're cleaning with nylon, you're cleaning with the tips of the brush, right? The tips of the brush are on the glass doing the scrub. And that's what you want to focus on. That's why the inner nylon on the dual trim is stiffer, so you can get that tip on there. Yep. When it comes to the boar bristle, what happens is it's so soft that it just lays down. So now you're cleaning with actually the side of the bristle, not the tip of the bristle. And that's by design. You know, it's a natural fiber like a human hair, a horse hair, any kind of natural fiber like that. If you wet it and you take your finger and you run it across the edge of it, it's going to have some drag and resistance, right? Yep. And that's how you get that real good cleaning, that real good scrub. But, you know, you go up 30, 40, 50 feet and you work for hours a day, you know, that scrub and that resistance is going to wear you out a bit. And, you know, the other thing that happens is the bristles break and the brush sheds. So you can't get nearly the life out of it as you could a nylon bristle, because the nylon's never going to break in half like that. It's never going to just fall out of the brush. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons when it comes to natural fibers, and they're really expensive. The demand on boar bristle is higher than ever before in the material that we're using for our brushes. And so costs are always rising. And so you've got this aggressive scrub, this really kind of premium sort of performance, but it comes with sort of a con as well, right? The life of it, the cost of it, and the wear on the operator.
Yeah.
And so we started looking at, okay, well, what can we do different? And a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll go to horsehair. It's a lot cheaper. It sort of does the same thing, but it doesn't give you nearly the scrub, and you do end up still having the shedding, right? So it's not ideal. So we visited with our brush manufacturer last year. We talked about the issues we face, some of the things we've run into in our industry, which, you know, for these guys is so niche, right? It's like, you want us to make what? Most of the brushes in window cleaning are coming from overseas, because that's where most of the poles and everything are made, right? So for an American brush manufacturer, they're used to making lots of different kind of brushes, but not what we're after. And so we started exploring different fibers and materials, and we looked at a number of things, and we really gravitated towards this synthetic material, just like nylon is a synthetic material. But what we found is the way that we're able to modify the material on the ends of the brush, keep a nice, short, compact bristle length. And the guys that we sent it out and tested it with, you know, the feedback was this thing scrubs as good as boar bristle, if not better. It's got glide, right, on the surface. And so you don't get that sort of,
drag.
The drag and the user fatigue, right? You can rinse on the glass, right? Because it's synthetic. It's not going to hold nearly the dirt, and it's not shedding. So it's like, okay, well, let's keep testing. Maybe we hit a home run here. And the feedback has just been kind of phenomenal across the board, whether it's a solar panel or a glass or whatever you're cleaning with it. The material itself, it's really a home run. And it's just, you know, through the relationships we have with our suppliers, that when we sit down with them and we talk about the issues we're running into, that we're able to really come up with good solutions for our customer base and for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is going to really help out guys with speed. The fact that you're uh, with this, I've used it a lot, when we get some really dirty windows. Yeah, you got to take this off the glass, and you're talking about if you're up 40 feet and trying to take this, especially if it's an XL size brush.
Yeah.
The fatigue is huge.
Yeah, and I mean, in the field, it's been a number of years since I've been in the field cleaning glass, but the reality was my approach became ultimately that if I had to work with a brush, and boar bristles was always my go-to, right? That's why I wanted to make them when I got into manufacturing for Tucker. But what I ended up doing was, instead of, like, I don't know how to, I'm still getting used to camera angles and reverse and everything. But what I used to do was, let's say my hand is the glass surface and the brush is on here. Instead of pulling it completely off and rinsing back here and having to hold the pole at 40, 50, 60 feet, worrying about whether or not I was going to lose control and everything, I would get to where I would essentially just tilt just the edge, and then I could go back and forth. And I still have just the edge of the brush on the glass, right? Yep. So I'm putting the load of the work on the glass still, but most of the brush is off. And if I clean with that edge all the way and this side off all the way to the edge of the window, then I can rinse all the way across. Well, you had to do that because of boar bristle. The rinse bar, if you get the hang of that with the swivel, you can kind of fan a window, for lack of a better explanation, and be able to rinse over the top of it and never have to pull off. But this material seems to be sort of the magic bullet, if you will, of getting to where you don't have to pull off. You can get every one of those features that the boar bristle has, and we're hoping for longevity out of it, just like a nylon bristle.
Yeah, I think that's where people are going to see it, is the longevity, the shedding too. I know when I was out working in the field, a lot of times we'll go out where it's French panes, so a lot of times a lot of cut up, and so that's where the boar hair would shed, and you just have a whole bunch of it in the frames. So that's going to be a nice aspect of this. We're not going to have that shedding, and obviously we've got guys that are out on, we're just talking about California, San Diego. They're out on the coast. So that's all they want to use is the boar hair brush, and it's going to wear down in a matter of months. So
yeah,
this, invest in a brush like this, you're going to be able to use it for the long haul.
And what you tend to see with boar bristle, right, is, the ends tend to get real short first, right? So you'll have this brush with the long trim, and then on the edges here, it's gone. And it's because, going left to right, you're banging into the frame. So this side is taking the beating. And then, sooner than later, this side is all these bristles on the edge have fallen off. But, we got guys that come in here and the boar bristle's half an inch long. They're like, man, this thing lasts me 6 months. And another guy's like, lasts me 6 weeks. It's all technique. It's the kind of windows you're doing. If you're doing a lot of French panes too, man, it just beats them up, right?
Yep.
Boom, 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 over emulsions or whatever you want to call them. So it's just tearing it up and grabbing that bristle. So, it's, to me, it was always kind of like, okay, well, if it's the best performance on the glass, if I'm going to get the highest chance for a streak-free performance, nothing left on the surface, and I have to have a bit of an increase in cost, I always looked at it when it comes to the boar bristle. If it's not going to last as long, but it's ultimate performance, I was at the least flip my squeegee rubber every day guy.
Yeah.
Right. Usually I would replace it every day. I mean, I run into guys that are like, I've had the same squeegee rubber in this thing for 6 weeks. Yeah. I'm like, how can that be? Right. It's a couple bucks, you pull it out, I'm going to make $400 or $500 today. Right. I always looked at it that way. And so I kind of have that same mentality when it comes to the boar bristle natural fiber. So I'm pretty excited about the Glide material going forward in terms of what it can offer and do. Cause it's like I said, I think it's the best of both worlds.
Right on. Checking in on Instagram, we have Palmer's Window Washing. He has a question, and this is about, let's take a look here. Have you ever made brushes without cutouts for jets? I feel some of the brushes I've seen aren't that full. I would like to possibly see solid brushes with rinse bars.
Yeah, good question. One of the biggest things that dictates the bristle pattern, right? In the brush manufacturing world, they call it the programming, right? So you start with this plastic back. One of these scrubbers. So here's an alpha scrubber, right? So this doesn't even use bristles. This has got the pad on it. The block itself, right? We have to manufacture this plastic block first, and then we send that block off to the brush assemblers, right? So what dictates where there are and are not bristles is the programming. We're running thousands of brushes at one time to get even to where the prices are today in terms of production times at brush manufacturers. And so when we have a brush that, let's say it's the Glide, and we want to put the Glide brush on the market, we have to have the Glide brush with a rinse bar. We have to have the Glide brush with a rinse bar and 4 jets. We have to have the Glide brush with only 4 jets. We have all these variations. We have to have the Glide brush with fan jets, with pencil fans, right? It's like, whoa. But in the end, what we have to do is, when you put that bristle in, because you're going to run all of those you're going to run this brush block for all those variations. You have to accommodate that in the manufacturing process. Now, what we've started to do is get away from fan jets for 2 reasons. One, it's a really small segment of the market. And again, when you're into volume manufacturing, it's kind of like, how do you service that? Well, we can offer fan jets. Maybe you're a DIY kind of guy. The other reason we're getting away from it is because the rinse bar pretty much put the fan jets to bed in terms of a rinse standpoint. But when you have to have a hole in the pattern on the bristle for a fan jet, you have to have a pattern really wide so the fan jet can clear through. So you can't just have a small hole. You have to have a large hole around it, so there's no bristles around that hole. So now you have this huge gap, and then next to it, you've got another huge gap. So you start to see, this is a good example of it. I don't know how well this is going to pick it up, but you start to see, you see all that black plastic on this hybrid. So this is kind of our older programming that we're working away from. This block was set up to accommodate fan jets in here. So the fans, again, they spray out wide. Right. So if you have bristles in there, it's going to hit the bristles and you're not going to get your fan spray out, right? But if you have just a pencil jet, you have to have a hole maybe 3/8 of an inch around that pencil jet to where it can clear out for the guy that still wants to rinse off the glass. But if you had no bristles missing, even a pencil jet would hit. But the reason we can't do a brush with basically a bristle set into every cubic inch, if you will, is because the smallest segment of the market for us is a brush with no jets, right? Just a rinse bar. And we would have to then pull manually the tufts of bristles out. So we kind of have to program the jets in a way that accommodates. So this is kind of an extreme in what we've been faced to do over the last number of years, because guys are wanting fan jets in here, right? So if we get away from fan jets, we can really get a lot more bristle in this cavity, and you can see it on the Glide, right? So the Glide is kind of the newest from a pattern standpoint. You can see it's a lot tighter, right? That's a small hole. That's a really small hole, right? Compared to that spacing where you can see that black block. So we're getting a lot more bristle in there. Added cost to us because all the material stuff is in there. But basically we've held the brush prices in terms of that. But that's the long explanation of why we really can't get to no space in there, but we're getting much closer to, a lot more bristle. And I think it's 10 to 20% more bristle depending on the brush. Yeah. So good question.
Yeah. And by doing that, you just have more bristles, more cleaning power. Helping you scrub on those windows. Over on Instagram, we have Big Island Customer Services. Do you guys ship to Hawaii? Absolutely. So we ship all our products to Hawaii, either via USPS, FedEx, Second Day Air, Express. And then we do have, for our bigger systems, freight options.
Yeah. So if you check tuckerusa.com, just pop your zip code in there. it'll populate some shipping quotes. Lots of our dealers ship to Hawaii as well. So check those guys out.
Right on. Mike Barry over on Facebook. He's stoked for the Glide.
Yeah, Mike's up in Canada.
All right. Might save that one for a little bit. I want to just check right here. Jamie Hallman over on our Facebook group page. I think he touched on this on one of his videos, but forgive me if it's been asked, but how do you guys decide the length of the bristles? Or are some longer and shorter than others?
Yeah, good question. So kind of touched on that a little bit, but to get into specifics of it, sometimes it depends on the actual bristle, and sometimes it depends on the bristle configuration in the brush, right? So this is a hybrid and it's a dual trim. Basically, the outside trim you want to have longer and of a certain length. And, Tucker's had a specific length that they've used for their nylon brushes for a long time. And then on the inner trim, you just want to have maybe a ½ inch or so shorter. So when that outer trim nylon lays out, then you're getting into contact with that inner one. So that's kind of a design thought process when it comes to something like that. The Glide is specifically shorter because we really want the tips of that brush to be doing most of the work. Boar bristle is as long as we can possibly get it because we know it's going to lay down. So the boar bristle brush, another challenge from a manufacturing standpoint is you only want to utilize one end of the boar bristle, right? So it's a straight fiber when they harvest it off the boar, right? It's literally off a pig. It's a straight fiber. The end that was kind of the follicle end, if you will, attached to the animal is not the end you want. Right. You want the other end. And so if you think about like, okay, well, how long are these bristles? Well, you have to have a pig essentially that's older to be able to get a long bristle on. And things are changing to where culturally in China, they're not allowing them to get to that point. And so we're having cost increase on boar bristle to get that long bristle because everyone wants a long bristle. And then when you go to staple set it in the brush, essentially what happens is you end up with a V pattern, right? So now you've got the good end you want here and the bad end you don't want here. So we staple it kind of like a check mark, if you will, down in there. So you can see like on the boar bristle brushes, this end right here, I don't know how well you can see that, but you see this shorter trim right here. This end right here is your follicle end. And this end is the end you want. So all through this brush, you've got this check mark pattern from side to side and front to back. So the longer we get this, the more expensive this brush is, right? So we've kind of landed on this sweet spot from a price point and performance standpoint. So this brush lays down on the glass, you're using the side of it, and there's enough bristle there. Whereas, every other material, this material comes in, 8-foot lengths and they just chop it to, half of that. So it kind of depends on the material, the brush design, as well as, what we're trying to accomplish with the actual brush of itself from a full trim or a dual trim brush.
Got it. A good question, Jamie. Let's pop this back off. Let's see. Pump question. Do we have time for a pump question real quick? This might take a bit of time. But our friends over at Affordable Pressure Washing, do you guys recommend any water pumps to feed the pump on the wall mount system when pulling from a tank? We have good pressure when hooked up to a house, but it goes down a bit when pulling from a tank. If not, how many GPM should the pump be?
That's a great question. So, yeah, this is definitely maybe a different show because I could obviously get into some things that I've been working on from a very high performance standpoint. We're working on a 6+ gallon per minute system. We're getting a lot of inquiries for that, and it's not something you can just kind of throw together. So we're looking at a lot of things, right? The pumps on the skid mount systems or the wall mount systems, either battery powered or electric, will siphon a tank. Okay. But when they do, it's less performance because it's all static pressure. There's no real line pressure assisting. So it's always better to get a pump pulling from a line pressure source than a static tank in terms of performance. So like the max output, for instance, it's only going to get around 2 gallons a minute if you siphon it right out of a tank.
Right.
But if you put water into the pump, you get that 3+. So it's quite a bit different. My suggestion would actually be to get a secondary pump in between the tank you're siphoning and the wall mount or the skid mount, right? So if you prefer battery, just get another booster pump, a battery booster pump. If you prefer electric, get an electric booster pump. And all you're going to do is you're just going to help it. But any pump will face that. And another thing that will help what you're running into, and this may just get you to where you need to be without a pump, is to make sure that your inlet line coming from the system to the tank is not like 3/8, right? You want to have maybe even an inch in diameter so you can move as much volume as possible, because there's going to be restriction on that flow. And the more the pump has to work because it's just siphoning, the less likely you are to get max performance out of it.
Right on. Well, we got a little bonus on there, brushes and pumps.
Brushes and pumps.
All right. I just realized it's 4:01 here, 6:01 on East Coast time. Just hit a couple more things here on Instagram before we sign off. UV Protect Manuel out in Puerto Rico. Can't wait to get his hand on the glide brush, and he asked how it compares to the board brush, something we answered a little bit earlier in the show. So what we're getting feedback is it's very similar to the board brush and scrubbing power. So it has the pros of the board brush without any of the cons of shedding and wearing early.
Yep, drag resistance on the operator, those kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, can't wait to get some of that out to Puerto Rico. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. We appreciate everyone checking in, coming in and asking questions and letting us know how things are going. I think, let's see, next week we'll be back at it again for episode 3. So be on the lookout for that. All right, everyone. Have a great week.
Yep. Take care, guys. Thanks for tuning in.